Lights on the screen in front, please. Technical crew, thank you. Okay, give a big warm applause to Dale Pearson. Thank you.
Okay, so sorry to disappoint you if you're expecting the other guy, but hopefully this will be interesting for you guys too. So I'm going to be talking to you about social engineering, but something slightly different. And so instead of hacking computers like probably most of you used to, hacking humans, so hacking your mind. Great. Same problem as you. Okay. So first off, like most people, this is all my own research, so some things you may or may not agree with, but it's all me, nothing to do with my employer or any of the customers I work with. And what I'm really going to try and talk about is that language is a strange thing. So even just by listening to what I'm saying now and reading what's on the slide, things are happening that you're not aware of subconsciously. And this is really a dangerous thing. So if we can understand how the brain works and how we process these things, we can be a lot more effective in our social engineering activities. So those of you who haven't heard of me before, I'm on the Eurotrash Security podcast. If you came to the podcast meetup last night, you've heard my lovely voice before. And hopefully some of you have been to the Head Hacker website, so you know a little bit what I'm going to be talking about today. But so 9 to 5, I work in information security like a lot of you. And then when I'm not doing that, I concentrate a lot over the last 24, 36 months doing social engineering. Okay? And this is happening already. So what I'm going to be talking about is a few things. The different types of social engineer as I see it, and really what the best tool I think for the job is when it comes to social engineering. And then the main sort of portion of the talk is going to be about my journey to enlightenment. So I'm going to be talking about neuro-linguistic programming. Anyone familiar with NLP? Show of hands. Okay. Hypnosis. Couple. Okay. And then mentalism as well. So if any of you have heard of Darren Brown? Yeah. So you know what mentalism is. Talk a little bit more about that. I'm just trying to give you some sort of ideas or have you thinking throughout this talk. How could you apply this day to day or in meetings, or if you're interested in social engineering, how you can utilize these skills? And really just trying to encourage everyone to, when you understand how some of this stuff works, is to get you thinking differently day to day. So if you're being what I call mindful, you can be aware of these attacks are happening, so you're less susceptible. So, just for clarification, as you know, if you read my site, I always reference Wikipedia, because it's just there. So, social engineering is basically about lying. So to convince someone that you are someone else, or you should be there, or you should have access. But when you hear some of the stories about some people's social engineering engagements, it's like they must have some sort of Jedi powers, just let me through, I belong here. And really, I think this is kind of what got me thinking about it, is how does this happen? How can you be more effective? How can you really have these Jedi powers? So, in my day job, we do some social engineering engagements, but a lot of the time our customers require us to get a third party to come and do it, so that it's like unbiased. So I meet lots of different types of social engineer, and I think I'm trying to classify it as 5 different types of social engineer. So the first type, you've probably all seen her. It's normally quite an attractive person. And if you're a guy, I'm sure if this girl comes up to you, you're pretty much going to let her do whatever she wants. But so really this is sort of the opportunist social engineer. So they're using their physical skills, they're available, they're not caught up doing something else. So you know, you can just go and use your attractiveness to get into this building. They've got an idea of the concept of social engineering, or how they're going to bypass some security controls, but they don't do this every day. And some people, this might be the first time they've ever done it. So there's an engagement that maybe the company doesn't think is so high priority, and there's someone who's enthusiastic, and they think, okay, just go ahead and do it. And this isn't necessarily a bad thing, because I'm sure which most of you realise with social engineering is companies are so bad at awareness. So even this opportunist person who's got little skills doesn't really have too much problem getting into some of these buildings, and that's really one of the worrying things. But you know, if they're challenged, they're probably going to run away, or okay, this didn't work. They're not going to try and persist to move forward. So then we have the second type, someone with natural confidence. You've all met them. They're American? No? Okay. So some of these people, they just talk the talk. They are so confident about everything, they could probably tell you they're an astronaut, and they believe they are, but really they're not. But so they talk lots of things. One of the common things is they're all talk. I've done this, I've broken into hundreds of companies, but really they haven't really done it in their mind. Perhaps they have, but they're so confident they were trying to convince you that they can do these things, which comes in handy, because one of the key things is, for social engineering, you have to be a good communicator. So you're lying to convince someone to believe that lie is real. So they're good at that, and they're comfortable interacting with people, because normally these natural confidence people love themselves. So if they want to have people talk to me, and that's just great. But again, similar to the first one, they don't really have, say, expertise. They don't do this very often, so again, they may just be a natural selection because you can talk to all these different customers you've had before, so you might be a good fit.
Usually manager.
I'm a manager, I can't say that. Yes, you're right, just like me. Then you've got, I guess, the third one, which I think is, we're kind of going to get more common now, that you find lots of the people who are interested in social engineering are a professional geeky type of guy. So they've got some Infosec skills, so it's not just about the social engineering thing. Once they get in there, they've got an idea of what they're going to do, how they're going to get access to the network or something like that. So they've got an interest and probably some passion. And they've normally got a process, or at least an idea of, okay, I need to do some research, get information on the customer. This is the sort of story I'm going to tell. I'm trying to convince them that I should be here. So they will have done a bit of homework. And so they're knowledgeable. But what I'm trying to get at with part of what I'm going to be talking about here is things happen, but they're not quite sure why they happen. So it's more of an art. You know, last time I did this, they seem to let me in here, so I'll try it again. They're not quite sure why it worked or why it didn't work. Then we've got the ninjas. Everyone loves the ninja. So these are the more seasoned professionals. So social engineering probably plays a large part of their role, so they're constantly doing this. So in their mind, at least, they have a repeatable process. So similar to the professional, they know if I pretend to be the water cooler guy, I can come through here, or if I'm giving a delivery, that normally works. So they have repetition on their side. And like I said already, they have experience. So because they're doing this quite often, they've got the confidence in the things that you're looking for already. And they're able to handle confrontation, which is one of the important things. So when someone challenges you, they don't just shit themselves and go, okay, I wasn't supposed to be here really. They have a sort of kind of a game plan. So they're going to say, they may have their get out of jail free card that has been altered, so it's not really the real one. They have something to back it up. Because they're passionate about it, they're enjoying what they're doing. It's not just a job, so normally they're going to be more successful. But one of the negatives, some of these seasoned pros, they think they know everything. So you try and tell them, okay, you might want to try this. No, it works. I know everything. So they're kind of turned off. So then comes to type number 5. I said Darren Brown already. So I think the best type of social engineer, what we should all be aspiring to, is to be this master manipulator. So what is a master manipulator? So like I said before, some people have this art, but not the science. So a master manipulator knows why things work and don't work. They test lots of things. So when something fails, they know why it fails. So then, as part of their process, they'll be reading what their subject that they're interacting with is happening, so they can adjust their game plan to make it more successful, not just based on experience of understanding why it's going to be more successful. So like I say, you have this game plan, And what this is really about is how, when things go wrong, it's not just an A, B, C process. You know how to get from A, there may be multiple routes to B, so it's not just A, B, oh shit, that didn't work. You might go A, A1, A2, A3 to C, and just skip B altogether. Multiple outs. And again, similar to the skilled professional guy, you know, they're passionate and dedicated to this. It's not just, this is my job. They're reading, they're researching these things, understanding, you know, how the mind's working, all these type of things. And they try and test these things, not just in a social engineering engagement. They're out doing this in the evenings, just manipulating people or monitoring people, looking how they're working. So they're constantly evolving what they're doing. So it's not just, I just do security. They're looking about how do people move, so like body language, micro expressions, talking to psychologists, understanding why people react a certain way, what's happening, you know, what we're really thinking about in our minds. And they get creative, so that's why some of the stories you hear, the good social engineers, they do some really far out weird stuff. That's the creative thing, is sometimes these things are so far out you think it couldn't possibly be real, and that's part of the reason why some of these things work, because it's just so out there, you've got more chance of success. But one of the bad things about a lot of master manipulators is they're real cocky bastards, because I know everything. So they almost think, even though they're constantly learning, they don't want to speak to these lower people that, you know, you've got nothing to teach me because you're just as opportunist. So what I'm trying to talk about, and what my research has been over probably most of the last 24 months, is how do we get to be the master manipulator? How can we utilize the power of our minds, the words we say, the words people read, and the observation to make ourselves so successful, or have a real good opportunity of being successful on a constant basis. So obviously a lot of these things, there's so much information. I wanted to talk about body language and micro expressions, everything, but due to time I'm just trying to talk to you about the journey that I had over the last 24 months of really researching deep down into NLP, hypnosis mainly, and then the mentors and stuff, about how you can utilize this in social engineering. So, like any good professional, the tool is really important, and even though we're all clever people, most of us are not really mindful. We're not really using our brains. We're just like cattle, we're just following everyone else. This is what we do, I'll just follow these people. So the best tool for this job as a social engineer is your mind, so you can be thinking on your feet and then understanding how you can manipulate the mind to get what you want. So I'm sure a lot of people here are probably skeptical about some of the things I'm talking about. So skeptical about hypnosis, does it work, does it not work? So just to give a little bit of information about the 3 types of the brain that I want you to be thinking about throughout this, is a part of the brain we call the limbic system. So this is sort of like, they call it the old part of the brain, and this is the sort of primeval animal instinct part of our brain that reacts whether we're going to run away or fight something. So it's more of the reactive nature, we don't really think, it just happens. Then our subconscious mind. So this is really the powerhouse of our mind. So even now, every second, we're taking in 11 million pieces of information. Seems like loads. I mean, that just shows how powerful the brain is. But the interesting thing is our subconscious is taking out all this information, but it only feeds through to us somewhere between 60 to 40 individual pieces of information, which makes us form our reality. So really, when we talk about hypnosis or using language, what we're doing is we're manipulating the subconscious to make these 16 to 14 pieces of information the priority for our objective. So instead of the reality that we're normally ignoring people if they're trying to get into a building or we don't believe them, what we're doing is we're altering these information to make our information the priority, so we're hacking the mind. So just before I go into the different steps, one of the important things with social engineering, especially when it comes to head hacking, commitment is of the utmost importance. So when we're trying to manipulate someone, we need to be 100% focused on them, and we need them to be 100% focused on us. We need them to be committed to the story we're telling them, or the lie that we're telling them. We need to have a planned path about what we're trying to achieve and how we're going to achieve it. So like I said before,